Hello, hello. This is another podcast with the unknown cameraman.
And the unknown camera woman.
So what are we going to talk about?
I think something that a lot of our viewers would have interest in is any paranormal experiences we've had in our own lives.
I know a lot of people are curious if we experience that while we're exploring, and as we've said, that typically does not happen, but in our personal lives, we have experienced pretty weird stuff, so we wanted to share that with you guys just so you kind of get a sense of, for anybody who's curious, we do believe in this stuff. We're not, skeptics or whatever that, it's abandoned building, there's no ghost, whatever, but it just hasn't happened to us there, but it has happened plenty of other places.
Exactly. The first one that comes to mind is actually something that happened when we were together. Sitting in the living room of our apartment, you had a clear view of the kitchen. The water heater did have a flame, obviously, as they all do. But this was almost something different. While we were sitting on the couch together, it was as if a fireball shot across the kitchen.
Right. Like we're sitting on the couch in the living room. The kitchen is to our right. You can clearly see right into the kitchen. The rooms are basically connected. And we weren't watching TV or anything. We were just sitting on the couch.
Yeah, I think we were just talking.
It was just quiet for the most part. And then in the middle of the kitchen, not near an outlet, nowhere near where the pilot light of the water heater would be,
Right.
there was a quick fireball that made a sound, like a...
Right, and we both saw it out of our peripheral vision. It wasn't like we were looking at the kitchen expecting something, but at the same time, we were both kind of taken back and said to each other, like, did you see that?
Yeah. And we were looking around, like, what could that have been? We're like, do you smell gas? Is the stove on? Is there any way somehow the pilot light... We have no idea what that was, but there was just, all of a sudden, there was just a quick little... Not like a huge fireball. I mean, diameter was probably a few inches.
I would say it's probably about the size of your fist.
Yeah. But just out of nowhere. Luckily, it wasn't just one of us. Both of us were there, so that we could say, am I crazy, or did you see that too?
Exactly. As far as other things go, I don't really think we've had anything else together.
I mean... very mild things. In the same apartment that we're talking about, on Mischief Night, the night before Halloween, we were watching a horror movie. I can't remember what movie it was, but it was a movie about people sneaking into your house with a video camera.
I think so.
And it's
yeah.
like kind of like a slasher murder kind of movie. And then the movie ended, and we're kind of like, ooh, that was creepy. And then our upstairs bathroom in the shower, a empty shampoo bottle fell off of the ledge and made this huge noise.
The only time that's ever happened, we did not have animals at home. Something like that, I think, could be chalked up to the neighbors. We lived in a duplex at the time, maybe them shaking the walls. Who knows? You had to be skeptical about everything.
But of course, the timing was so perfect, and especially for us that we're just like, it's got to be something crazy for us to believe in it. We had just watched a horror movie that's never happened. There's never anything that's ever fallen in that bathroom. And that was the night that something happened. It was so perfect. And it definitely freaked us out for a second because we were like, okay, what was that? Is somebody in our apartment? But again, that was kind of like a fun paranormal thing. It wasn't really anything crazy.
Right. Well, as far as things that I've experienced, I would say most recently, I guess this was a little over a year ago, my grandmother had passed away. She had given me a set of earrings years prior to that, of which one of them I had lost the backing to it months ago. When I came back home from a trip that I had been on where I had found out that she had passed, I opened my backpack up to get out all of my belongings and put them away. And on top of it was the back of that earring, just sitting right in the middle, right on top of everything.
This is after traveling, using the opening and closing the bag several times.
I mean, I must have used it 100 times since I had lost that part of the earring. To me, it almost felt like she was reaching out to me, saying, I'm still here, watching out for me in some way.
Mm-hmm.
There could always been the chance that it was stuck to the backpack. It just so happened at that moment that it had gotten loose somehow, and it was coincidence, but...
Just the timing was so perfect.
Right.
And I feel like that's how most paranormal stories are. It's not necessarily the kind of thing where you're going to see the earring move across the table or something. It's almost like even if you had a camera, you wouldn't see it happen. It's
Exactly.
these very subtle ways of somebody communicating to you. And most of the stories I hear like that, at least in my family, that it is centered around a time where you lost somebody and those little things that the timing is so perfect that it's not something that happens all the time. It's not people that go out looking for coincidences like that. But when it happens, it is that kind of thing that gives you comfort that says, they are there, they do see me, and they are reaching out to me.
Exactly.
And I almost like that more than just the kind of stories where it's, there's some angry ghost in a basement yelling names or whatever, But who knows? I mean, that's how our experiences are. Maybe it does seem like other people attract it more, and maybe they get stuff like that happens to them. I don't know. I haven't experienced it, so I can't say.
Well, one story that kind of confuses us is a family friend. Him and his girlfriend were sleeping in their bed. Out of nowhere, they heard an ear-piercing scream. So loud that it woke both of them up, where they sat straight up in bed.
Like there was a person in their house screaming, and they shot up out of their bed.
Movie style.
Yeah, like, oh my God, what's going on?
Right.
Yeah.
They said it still continued after they had even both sat up, where they both looked at each other completely perplexed. They were so convinced that somebody had gotten into their house and was screaming for some strange reason that they called the police. The cops told them, stay where you are and we'll come to the house. The cops get there, they check everything, they check all the windows, all the doors, everything's locked. There's no sign of anybody else being there. There was no explanation for it.
And I asked so many questions. I was like, do you think it could have come from outside? Was it a neighbor? Was it come from the street, somebody else's backyard? And they said, no. It sounded like it was right downstairs below us. It sounded like it was in the house.
Exactly. And it's a separate house. It's not an apartment, etc.
What did the dog do? Did the dog react to it?
Yeah, the dog, it's funny because it's a golden retriever. And if you've ever known one of them, you know how excited they get to see people. The dog got up and kind of stirred a little bit, just walked around a little bit downstairs, and laid back down and went back to sleep.
Which is not typical of him. When he sees that you get to the house, he's jumping up and down, going berserk.
Going crazy, right.
If you're outside about to come in.
But you could still tell that he heard something because he got up to look around. Mm-hmm. They say animals and children are more prone to having paranormal experiences. Maybe he had heard something like that before, so it wasn't shocking to him.
Or it was just kind of scary to him that it wasn't something he could pinpoint, and he wasn't ready to jump around. He was a little
skittish.
It could have been a little bit of that.
Right. The strange thing about this is the person who this happened to does not believe in anything paranormal whatsoever.
At all. He's the most skeptical person. Everything is cut and dry reality. So
Exactly.
for this to happen to him is amazing that it freaked him out and he can't explain it.
Still to this day, he's pretty freaked out over it. He still can't get over it, still has not thought of an explanation. And he says it has changed his mind about whether or not there are paranormal happenings.
Yeah.